In this video, we're going to take a look at a blue ink by Private Reserve, their Fast Dry Midnight Blues. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description are links to the blue playlist, so if you wanted to see more blue inks, you could check that out there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample, 90 GSM Clairfontaine. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Well, no, not really. I mean, the F-dry looks a little bit lighter than the rest. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 9 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no color variation because we're not getting any, but the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then, a Conklin word gauge with a fine nib was inked up, used for day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, some minor ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 16 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 23 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation, which we don't get, and the smear test, there's a maybe you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. A slim maybe. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this kind of greenish tone at the bottom, a light greenish tone, and it pushes its way up to a very nice blue across the top. Now, the one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's put into water. And while the first one had a green line that was definitely there at the bottom and had immediately bonded with the paper, in 10 minutes, all of the green has bonded with the paper and it is absolutely not moving. Now, as it pushes up, you do see that same blue, which means we might expect that green tone to be a little bit of a hang-around color. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 8 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine and the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, which we're not getting, and the smear test you could probably recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, even though it does spread a little bit, all of the information is very intact. I feel confident using it in a note-taking situation. Water is only lifting the blue parts of the ink out of the way, but the green has bonded with the paper, which is curious, but not based on the chromatography. Pen flush does everything that water does and nothing more. Now, it did take pen flush to get it out of my pen, and only a little bit to get it out of the, I had to remove the feed, and it only took a second to get the remainder out of the piston part of the pen, but it really wasn't much. 1/3 bleach solution, which you're not going to need, absolutely obliterated it. The next writing sample is done on Moji paper. No bleeding, very minor ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub, with no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 3 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 5 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, and there is none, and the smear test I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, and the realm of normal was 2.1 to 2.9. Private Reserve's Midnight Blues, their fast dry, has a viscosity of 2.62, making it normal. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests and all that's done, then there's a link to that video down in the description. The next writing sample is done on moleskin paper. Now we do have quite a bit of bleed spots that are occurring, which I really expected quite a bit of this. Really, I expected much more being fast dry. It usually means it's going to try and bond with the paper very fast. So all of this in the extra fine I don't see as a big deal. I don't see it stopping you from using the back of the page. The medium would stop you from using the back of the page, but it does not go through and corrupt the page underneath. The medium has a lot of feathering all over it, not tiny feathering either, big feathers, but they just jut way out there. The other side is it's not horrible for this paper. No spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine, tons of feathering the entire way through, the same type of feathering as the medium, same tone as the medium, no spread, halo, sheen, no shade. 3 seconds to dry. Again, I see this is actually very good for on this paper. The scrubby shows no color variation, and we got none. And a smear test you could recover if you accidentally smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Private Reserve's Fast Drying Midnight Blues has an average dry time of 14 seconds, meaning it's not fast drying, it's just normal. The last writing sample is done on 20-pound copy paper. Now, there's a ton of bleed that's going on in the medium. The good news on this is it's not touching the paper underneath. The extra fine has the same type of issue, not touching the page underneath, not as deep as it was with the medium. But you can't use the back of the page in either case or you'll lose everything. Now, the medium up top has a ton of feathering, which we would expect. It has a ton of spread. It is spread from a medium to probably about a double broad. No halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the medium. It has tiny feathering all over it. It spreads to a little bit more than a medium, not quite a broad, with no halo sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation. We're not getting it. In a smear test, you could definitely recover it because you can't smear it. Instead of finding inks that look like Private Reserve's Fast Dry Midnight Blues, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a magenta ink from Birmingham Pen Companies, their Gene Kelly Raspberry Rain. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those different playlists. So what do I think of Private Reserve's Fast Dry Midnight Blues? It almost always looked very dark and made me thinking of a blue-black. There's no shading in the writing sample, but that isn't why you get this ink. The Private Reserve bottles are just about the ultimate in cost-effective utility, while giving a lot of ink. I just wish it was actually fast drying. So what nib and pen are going to give you the best writing experience with this ink? Again, I really didn't care for it in all of the writing samples. The tone was just completely wrong for me. But then I got to write with it in a very dry, fine pen. It lightened it up quite a bit and gave it some shading. In the notes I took, it looks very different than the writing samples. I like it from a dry fine. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Diamine's Golden Honey.